CoinRoutes chairman Dave Weisberger. The Bitcoin ETFs have been the most successful launch in decades. So let's just hear what he says.
If you rewind the tape to early January, before the Bitcoin ETFs launched, the most aggressive predictions for the kind of investor interest we would get was somewhere between 10 and 15 billion in the first 6 months. In fact, the average is probably about 15 billion for the entire year of 2024. We are way past that. The Bitcoin ETF is now just undeniably the most successful ETF launch in decades. And it wasn't just one. There are multiple Bitcoin ETFs that would have made into the top 5 list over the last decade or so. And that's really a big thing. That shows you just how much untapped demand there is, how many people actually believe in the narrative of Bitcoin as a store of value. But as the knife salesman would say, there's more, David. The fact is that we still haven't even seen the most of the professional RIAs and FAs be able to allocate Bitcoin on behalf of their larger clients, because the systems have not allowed that yet. That is just kind of starting now, and we expect it to accelerate in the back half of the year. So we're seeing an enormous amount of demand based upon the narrative that's being, basically being promoted by, I would say, the lead cheerleader is Larry Fink of BlackRock. And BlackRock has done phenomenal in terms of gathering assets. But remember, this was a man who years ago, not too many years ago, was a big skeptic. And now he has joined the ranks of declaring it as going to be the digital store of value, or the base layer of the Internet of Money, whichever way you want to look at it going forward. That has weight.
Okay, so he said 10 or 50 million there. I said 5 billion. I said 5. So before we go any further into that, let's look at this next post here, which ties really well into that. But let's look at BlackRock's. Let's look at what BlackRock currently has that they announced of how much Bitcoin they're holding right now. What do we got here? Just in from the Bitcoin news, the value of BlackRock's Bitcoin holdings jumps to 18 billion. 18 billion from BlackRock right now. That's how much Bitcoin they're holding. So all these experts, all these financial analysts and experts, and all the talking heads on TV, they thought that the total for the year of Bitcoin that these ETFs were going to get to was going to be about 10 or 15 billion for 2024. Currently, BlackRock has 18 billion worth of that Bitcoin. Plus you have Fidelity, plus you have 7 other ETFs who are buying as much Bitcoin as they possibly can right now. And so let's just kind of take a little bit deeper dive into this and think about what's happening here. So there's 2 things I want you to think about here. So we know that the ETFs have surpassed the experts, but we know the experts don't really know that a whole lot, especially about Bitcoin. But there's 2 things I want to talk about here. The first one is that I want you to think of your own life. Think about your financial advisor and think about the conversations that you've had with people. If you have a financial advisor, are they somebody who has been talking about Bitcoin to you? Have they reached out, sent an email saying, hey, there's this new Bitcoin ETF here. It's been doing pretty good, better than most of our other assets. Maybe you should consider putting a little bit, maybe 2%, 3% into your portfolio. Has your financial advisor said that? Have any of your friends talked about their financial advisors saying that to them? I highly doubt it. So there's a shitload of investment that's already flowed into Bitcoin. And I don't think we've even scratched the surface in terms of how much is still going to come. So that's one aspect of it. And the other part is that think about where we are right now in the Bitcoin cycle. And with BlackRock, and all these other companies who are buying as much Bitcoin as they possibly can, the majority of that Bitcoin is actually flowed out of Grayscale. So that's why we've seen so much come into Bitcoin. So many of these ETFs buying up the Bitcoin. without really seeing too much of a price movement yet. So historically, leading up to a halving, it drops. We've seen a huge drop right before the halving historically. This time we hit an all-time high. The majority of people in the investment world, I would say 99% of financial advisors haven't had a conversation with their clients about Bitcoin. So we've already hit an all-time high. We still have so much money within that system to be allocated to Bitcoin still. And eventually Grayscale is going to run out of Bitcoin. So those three things alone, I think that most people are significantly underestimating what's going to happen here as more people come in, as less Bitcoin are mined every 10 minutes, and as Grayscale runs out of Bitcoin. All three of those things are going to happen at once. We're in for some crazy times here. We're in for some very, very crazy times here. It's exciting though.